Hello and welcome to Theatre.Reviews with Paul Seven. Today I'll be reviewing not a stage show, but an autobiography by a star of stage and screen. I'm sure you know or recognise Doon Mackichan, but just to remind you, she was one of the geniuses behind Smack the Pony and was terrific in Two Doors Down. She also appeared on The Day Today, Brass Eye, Alan Partridge, Plebs, and stage shows like Boeing-Boeing and David Marmot's Bitter Wheat with John Malkovich. She'll shortly be joining Kristin, Scott Thomas and Lily James in Lyonesse. If you're expecting My Lady Parts to be the typical showbiz autobiography with amusing anecdotes about working with Maggie Smith, John Goodman or John Malkovich, you will be disappointed. And while I'm telling you what this book is not, perhaps I should say that for someone who started her career as a stand-up comedian and who has written and appeared in so much great comedy, there aren't that many laughs. But what it is an almost continuous indictment of the misogyny and discrimination that she and other women have experienced in show business. I was left feeling shocked at the treatment she's received over her 40-year career. I hope that the men she describes in this book and others who have behaved in similar ways do read it and feel ashamed. The title is clearly meant to grab attention, but what it refers to is the kind of parts she was getting at each stage of her career, or sometimes simply how she's been pigeonholed at various points in her life. So each chapter begins with the kind of description given at casting calls to indicate the character one is auditioning for. When young, she's expected to be a typical bimbo. When older, a desperate cougar. And when older still, a hag. Along the way, she's patronised, assaulted and discriminated against. She doesn't name many names. Perhaps she fears libel actions. Perhaps she signed non-disclosure agreements. Or perhaps the incidents have been rewritten a little to tell a good story. For example, she appears in a show with a well-known star from a TV soap, and he smooths her bottom and says, "Nice arse," to which her response is to grab his crotch and say, "Nice bollocks." But the effect of the anonymity in many of the anecdotes is that some powerful punches don't land quite as heavily as they should. Now, some are named, or near as damn it, and not surprising, Jim Davidson doesn't emerge well. But more disappointingly, we learn, if we didn't already know, that some of our favourite alternative comedians are not alternative enough to allow women to be more than stereotypes and feeds for their egotistical humour. Ricky Gervais thought Smack the Pony's women should build the show around him. A famous artist who dresses in women's clothes, I wonder who he could be, tells her, "I had a very filthy dream about you." Now there's a chat-up line. On TV through the 80s and 90s, the world of comedy is dominated by men. Her ideas for series are turned down, apparently because French and Saunders already fill the quota for female comedy. Miss Mackichan points out that while we may have moved on a little, the position of women in the workplace and society in general has not improved as much as we might hope. Since this book was written, we've read descriptions of the behaviour of some of today's male comedians, triggered by the accusations made against Russell Brand. And, of course, there's the appalling attitude towards women expressed by Lawrence Fox and broadcast by GB News. It's not until about halfway through the book, when we get to Smack the Pony, that Ms. Mackichan gives us the kind of behind-the-scenes insight that I personally find fascinating in showbiz autobiographies. This look at the mechanics of making a TV comedy show, the clashes, the fear, the panic, the pressures, and the exhilaration, is an illustration of just how good a storyteller she is. Another vivid description is of the time she swam the Channel as part of a relay team. You feel you could have been there as she describes the panic of being in huge waves. There are a couple of other electric chapters in the book when she describes in detail her emotional turmoil. One is when her child becomes seriously ill. Her pain is palpable. The other is during a run of a play in which she has agreed to appear because she desperately needs the money. And this book is a reminder that the life of a freelance actor is extremely precarious. Her description of the heroic way she pulled herself through despite being increasingly ill is knockout. I don't doubt a lot of people she's worked with will have labelled her awkward over the years. She has strong ideas about what she should be required to do in auditions, and there are many things she refuses to do when rehearsing and performing. In particular, she acknowledges that she might be labelled an awkward prude because she steadfastly refuses to appear naked. She's only too aware that such scenes, even if the nudity is justified, can be taken out of context on porn and other websites. And of course, over the years, male nudity tends to be far less revealing than female. The difficulties she experienced when pregnant or needing childcare remind us that so much of the legislation that helps support women in the workplace is hard to enforce in the world of jobbing actors. One of her principles is that directors should work with her rather than tell her exactly what to do and how to say her lines. She gives an interesting insight into the process of working that she prefers. The director desperately wants to tell me how to say my lines, which is a bad sign. If he's a good director, he can direct me to the tone he's looking for, the emotion, the action, the active quality of what I'm trying to do. Sadly, this director doesn't know how to do that. He has an impeccably clear vision of her, and I'm not quite playing ball. I wouldn't be surprised if she has lost work because of her principles. I mean, she recalls numerous occasions when she herself has turned down jobs. She does understand that other women may bite their tongue when they experience bad behaviour because they need the money or they fear speaking out might affect their career. And she admits to doing that a bit herself. But she is greatly to be admired, in my opinion, for sticking to her guns, and that makes her a good role model for young women entering show business. I think my lady parts should be handed out as part of the course reading at drama schools. In this book, Miss Mackichan makes an impassioned plea not only for more female comedy writers and performers to be given a chance on TV, film and in theatre, but for more stories by and about women, and for women to choose to be themselves, not a male fantasy. This is an angry and at times polemic book, and justifiably so, and I would still argue it could have been leavened with a bit more humour, but her descriptions of her fight against a toxic industry and her personal triumphs in adversity make My Lady Parts an inspiring read. My Lady Parts is published by Canongate and is out now. I hope you enjoyed this review and will want to see my future reviews. If you do, please subscribe to this channel and please comment, like. And if you want to read my reviews, go to Theatre.Reviews. You can also follow me on Mastodon, Threads, X, Instagram and Facebook. Thank you for watching.